The night the temperature fell to minus 50 degrees, the world seemed to stop breathing. Trees cracked like gunshots in the darkness. Metal screamed as it contracted, and the wind howled across the frozen plains of northern Montana like something alive and angry in that brutal cold. Where even modern homes failed and power grids collapsed, one place remained strangely, impossibly warm. It was not a mansion or a government bunker. It was an underground shelter with a stone roof that everyone had laughed at, and inside it lived a woman they once called foolish, stubborn, and naive. If you believe that silent heroes deserve second chances, take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that quiet courage can change everything. Her name was Hannah Whitmore, a Christian woman in her early 40s who had lost almost everything long before the cold came. She lived on the edge of a small rural town in the United States, a place where winters were harsh, neighbors were practical, and anything different was met with suspicion. Hannah had grown up believing that God's plans often made no sense at first, and that faith sometimes meant standing alone. That belief was tested again and again after her husband passed away from illness, leaving her with grief, debt, and a piece of rocky land no one else wanted. The land sat near a low ridge, exposed to brutal winds and buried under snow for nearly half the year. A friend from church urged her to sell it cheap and move closer to town. Locals told her it was impossible to build anything livable there. But Hannah had learned, through loss, how fragile surface-level security could be. She had seen storms knock out power for days, pipes burst, roofs collapse, and people panic. What stayed with her most was a single verse she read every night before sleep, about the wise builder who built his house upon the rock. Over time, that verse stopped being just comfort and became a plan. Instead of building up, Hannah decided to build down. When she announced she was digging an underground shelter with a stone roof, the reaction was immediate and cruel. People shook their heads at the grocery store. Some laughed openly, calling a grave instead of a home. Others said she was wasting money she didn't have on an idea from another century. Even well-meaning friends warned her that stone roofs were dangerous, outdated, and unnecessary in the modern world. Hannah listened quietly, smiled politely, and kept working. Every day before dawn, she prayed, bundled herself in layers, and went out with rented equipment and borrowed tools. She studied old construction methods, survival architecture, and thermal mass principles late into the night. She learned how stone absorbed heat during the day and released it slowly at night. She learned how earth insulation worked better than exposed walls. She learned how people once survived brutal climates long before central heating existed. Progress was slow, exhausting, and often painful. Her hands cracked and bled. Her savings disappeared. There were nights she cried alone, asking God if she was being faithful or simply foolish. The shelter took shape inch by inch beneath the frozen ground. Thick stone slabs formed the roof, reinforced with layers of earth above them. The walls were curved, not straight, to distribute pressure. Small ventilation shafts were carefully placed to prevent moisture buildup. A modest wood stove sat at the center, designed to heat the stone rather than just the air. It was not beautiful by modern standards, but it was intentional, thoughtful, and built with quiet conviction. As winter approached, the mockery grew louder. Neighbors drove by slowly just to stare. Someone joked that they would check back in spring to see if Hannah had frozen underground. Another said she would regret not building something normal while she still could. Hannah said nothing. She finished sealing the entrance, stacked firewood, stored food, and prayed over the shelter the night she moved in. Then the storm came. It was the coldest winter in decades. Temperatures dropped faster than forecasts predicted. Power lines failed across the region. Modern homes, built quickly within insulation and exposed systems, began to suffer. Furnaces shut down. Pipes burst. Emergency shelters filled up. Roads became impassable. The cold was not just uncomfortable, it was deadly. The night it reached minus 50 degrees, fear spread through the town. People wrapped themselves in blankets and waited for daylight that felt like it might never come. Wind battered houses relentlessly, pulling heat from every weak point. Inside Hannah's underground shelter, the stone walls radiated a steady warmth. The stove burned efficiently, needing far less wood than expected. The earth above blocked the wind entirely. The temperature inside barely changed. While others shivered and prayed for rescue, Hannah slept peacefully. Morning brought shocking news. Several homes had suffered major structural damage. Some roofs collapsed under ice. Emergency crews struggled to reach stranded families. And then someone remembered Hannah. A neighbor, worried despite past mockery, trudged through the snow to check on her. What they found left them speechless. The entrance was clear. No ice damage. No smoke pouring out. Hannah opened the door calm, warm, and unharmed. Her shelter had not just survived the freeze. It had protected her better than most modern houses in town. Word spread quickly. People who had laughed now stared in disbelief. The underground shelter with a stone roof had endured what everything else could not. Over the following days, as the town recovered, attitudes shifted. People asked questions. Some apologized quietly. Others simply listened as Hannah explained how the shelter worked, never once saying, "I told you so." She credited her faith, her research, and the patience God had taught her through loss. She opened her shelter to help neighbors warm up, share food, and rest. What had once been a symbol of ridicule became a refuge. Hannah's story did not end with recognition or praise. She did not become famous. She did not profit from the attention, but something deeper changed. The same people who once dismissed her now looked at her with respect. Children asked about her faith. Adults asked about resilience. The shelter became a reminder that wisdom does not always look impressive at first, and that faith-driven decisions often make sense only after the storm passes. Before this story ends, we ask you to leave a comment below sharing what this story made you feel, or who it reminded you of. Your words matter, and they help this community grow stronger. Spring eventually came, as it always does. Snow melted. Repairs were made. Life returned to normal on the surface. But beneath the ground, Hannah's shelter remained quiet and steady, a testament to preparation, belief, and courage. It stood as proof that being mocked does not mean being wrong, and that sometimes the safest place is built where no one thinks to look. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you to trust God even when others doubt you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps bring more stories of silent heroes and second chances to the world. Hannah never forgot the laughter, but she also never let it harden her heart. She knew now, more than ever, that faith was not about proving others wrong. It was about standing firm when no one else understood, building with patience, and trusting that when the coldest night arrives, what is built on the rock will remain.